everyone, thanks for joining me. This is the weekly fishing report for the week of January 26th, and I want to start out giving a shout out to Ryan Cook. And a lot of you guys know Ryan as a Central Valley bass fishing guide. A lot of you have fished with Ryan, and if you don't know, his wife Diana had a heart attack on Christmas Day, and Ryan has been home helping Diana rehab. It's going to be a process. She's home, she's doing well, but it's going to be a process. So Ryan hasn't been able to get out on the water. And if you want to support Ryan, Central Valley Bait and Tackle in Modesto, I'll give you the address and the phone number if you have any questions. Central Valley Bait and Tackle has a raffle with the proceeds going to help Ryan out while he's down having to be away from work. It's $10 a ticket. There's going to be a nice rod and reel combo. There's going to be some bait and tackle packages. You can also win a day on the water with me. It's a donation. So, but anyhow, there's going to be a nice raffle, and that is going to be, the raffle is going to be held February 14th, and you can get your tickets at Central Valley Bait and Tackle in Modesto. You have to go by and pick them up. If you have any questions, you can give Ryan, is not Ryan Cook, but Ryan, the owner of Central Valley Bait and Tackle, will be glad to answer all of your questions. And his number is 209-312-9417. We'll put that up in the remarks and the how to get there. And also, I think Ryan Cook on his Instagram has a GoFundMe on that, and you can get to that if you want to help out Ryan by just going to Ryan Cook's Instagram, and you can get the information for the GoFundMe part of the operation there. But until then, Ryan, we're all hoping for a quick recovery. We want to see you on the water, and you'll have all of our prayers and best wishes. So with that, we'll get into the report. Next line of business, I want to thank everyone who was out at the ISE show, taking the time to stop by and say hi. I enjoyed meeting with all you guys and chatting. It was a good time. I think everybody that was at the ISE show this year had a good time. It was a good show. Remember Toxic Bait Day? That's going to be June 29th out at Russo's. I'll be talking to Caesar as we get closer to that date, and we'll get all the information on that. That's where all the big bait makers from, the custom bait makers from basically California and beyond, will be out at Russo's. You can go down and talk to them. If you need a booth, you can call Caesar out at Toxic Baits, and I'll get that information for you. And you could reserve a booth if you want to sell some of your baits. The Bass Hole, Rob out on Bethel Island, April 1st, having another swap meet. This is a good place to, a good time to start, getting all of your old equipment together, bring it out there, swap it, sell it, do whatever you want. It's out in the parking lot. That's going to be April 1st. Rob usually has some pretty good deals going on during the swap meet. So that's out at the Bass Hole, April 1st swap meet. Let's get into NorCal lake levels, and then we'll get right into the Delta report. And I have been keeping levels for about the last 3 weeks, and let's start off with Shasta. Last week it was 52% of capacity. This week it's 55% of capacity. I've got a picture showing what Shasta has been doing in the last 3-4 weeks, and it's filling up nicely. The percent of average is up to 86%, average over the last 15 years. Oroville is a little different. If you look at some of these lake levels, you're going to see that capacity is kind of holding steady, and that's because they're starting to let more water out than water coming in, and that's for flood control. So if some of these sound a little bit off, it's because they're actually trying to keep the level at minimum pool for flood control. So Oroville last week was at 57% capacity. It's at 62 this week. It was 104% of average last week. It's 110 this week. Folsom is a little different. Folsom's a small lake, and they say the reports on Folsom is it's such a small lake and they get so much water on good years like this that we can actually fill that lake about 3 times. So last week the capacity was at 54%. This week it's only at 53. Now last week it was 123% of average and 118 this week. What's happening with Folsom, they're starting to let water out because they're expecting a lot of water coming in and they need that for flood control. So just be aware of that. Berryessa last week was at 64% capacity. It's at 66, and it's staying about 85% of average. New Maloney's last week was at 64%. I'm seeing it's only at 40% this week, so there might be a little problem there. But it is at 69% of average over the last 15 years. Comanche, they're not even listing they didn't have anything listed, and I think it's because Comanche is at their level that they're going to need it to stay at for flood control. I'll get back to that Maloney's deal next week, and we'll see why I have some conflicting reports there. Clear Lake, that's maybe the best story of all. 3 weeks ago, it was on the Rumsey scale, it was 1.42. Last week, it was 3.78, and this week it's at 4.24. So, Clear Lake has got a ton of water that has come into it, and it's in really good shape, and we're hoping that we're going to get a few more of these storms. Maybe not like the last one, but, the water will be able to trickle in, and all of these lakes, I think we're going to see go up steadily, and it's looking good for Central California right now. And everything's been drying out. I've been out around the farmlands out here in the Delta, and all of the flooded farmlands, or most of them, some of them are still pumping, but by and large, everything's drying out, and it looks good. So let's get into the Delta report, and as you would think, there's not a lot going on. I actually went out Tuesday. The water levels are going down, so that big flush that was coming in about a week ago, that's dropped, so water levels are down. The water clarity was probably maybe an inch or two last week. This week it's up to almost a foot. Still chocolate milk. As a matter of fact, got a glass here. I'm going to go down and we're at Paradise Point right now. I am going to grab a glass of water so you can see how chocolatey the water is. I'll give you just a minute here. You'll probably see a couple of sea lions in the back out here. They've really been they've been out around Paradise Point since I've got back from ISE, and there must be some fish out here because they've been right out in front every day. Let me get a glass of water. We'll show you what we got here. Okay, getting back in here, and that's what it looks like. Basically, your standard chocolate milk out here, and I was thinking it was going to be like that, so I brought some marshmallows, and I've always wanted to try this when it's that chocolatey. Got a nice marshmallow. We're going to drop this in here. Let's see what it tastes like. Call this a Delta cocktail. It's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, we'll get into the Delta report. As I said, I was out Tuesday. There's not a whole lot of stuff floating down the river now. I did encounter one telephone pole and one paddle boat that I had to tow in, but there's not a lot of stuff flushing down. I think we had the big flush, and a lot of the hyacinth and a lot of the smaller stuff has moved down the river. You still got to be careful out here. Everything is looking great. The fishing is not good. I fished for about 2 hours. I had one bite on a jig, and I missed that bite. I threw nothing but spinner baits and jigs, and it's just tough fishing. But here's the good news. Everything looks like it's trending in the right direction. The river is alive. The seagulls are out, they're hunting, the diving birds are on the water. they're getting back into the swing of things. You can tell it's just a very aggressive time of the year for everything starting to come out. The birds are feeding. The sea lions are out in force, and they're all moving and looking. The sun's out. Everything is drying up on the banks. The river looks like it's in really good shape other than poor visibility. The water temperature was 50 degrees. I have gotten a few reports. I know there's a few stripers being caught up by the port of Sacramento, but nothing to write home about. I know there are people out at Sassoon. They were still catching fish out there, well, up until a couple days ago. I talked to as many of the shops as I can get a hold of. No reports coming in. I'm getting 3 or 4 reports a week, and everybody is blanking. Actually, the only guy that I've heard catch any fish, and I don't know when Randy was out. I talked to Randy Pringle at the ISE, and Randy was out, and I know it had to be obviously before the ISE, maybe before the storm came in. But Randy went out and he got 3 fish, and he got those on spinnerbait. So what I did was I talked to Randy at the ISE, and I was planning on doing a video, kind of a primer for everyone, letting or giving some ideas on what we should be looking at to get ready for this spring. Because we've had so much flow come through the river, it's going to be a little different process. And man, as soon as I started talking to Randy, I said, no better person to maybe do a video with and get his idea on what's going to happen as the delta comes into shape and we start fishing it. So Randy and I have a date for February 3rd. We're going to go out, we're going to do a little fishing. We're probably going to run around the river and just take a look at what it looks like, what the conditions are. And I'm going to get the chance to interview Randy Pringle, and we're going to put our heads together and we're going to talk about putting together a plan for when we all get out here and we start actually fishing, thinking we're going to catch fish. It's going to be a little different, so I'm sure Randy's going to have a lot to say as far as what baits we should be thinking about, maybe some of the areas that we should be fishing, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be coming up. Well, it'll probably be right after February 3rd. Next week, I'm going to do a video on, I think it's called Chasing Giants, and we're going to talk about how you can go out this year and hopefully get your personal best. That'll be up next Tuesday, hopefully. I will be going out this weekend at least once. I'm not going to get real hot and heavy about coming out here because the fishing is very tough. The fish just aren't on a feed. But everything is trending in the right direction, so keep in tune or in touch, and we'll talk about what's going on the river next week, and maybe we'll even catch a few fish. Until then, I'm going to keep enjoying these. That's not bad. It's got a little grit in it, but not too bad. I'm going to keep enjoying these Delta cocktails, and we'll see you guys next week. I won't see you on the water, but probably see you on video. So thanks for watching. See you next week.